Thank you guys for joining me in discussing fat loss macros in this article. So, fat loss seems to be one of the most common goals these days, and especially among women. An important thing to understand about fat loss is that usually it does come at a price of reduced strength and decreased physical performance. Of course, the easiest way to lose fat or to drop pounds quickly is by reducing the protein to energy ratio. And so let's talk a little bit about what that is. So fats and carbohydrates are considered the energy macros, right? These are the fuel sources that our body can utilize in order to produce ATP and generate energy. Carbs tend to be a little bit quicker burning, is what we refer to them as, and they provide ample energy throughout the day. People who tend to eat a diet higher in processed carbohydrates, so we're not talking about cheeseburgers and french fries, we're talking more like rice, brown rice or white rice, potatoes, yams, fruit such as apples, maintain their fats pretty low. Even in a higher carb diet, you can actually drop fat pretty easily. So a lot of the vegan communities, the reason that they're experiencing increased fat loss, and a lot of new vegans would report significant weight reduction is because they are doing this higher carb but lower fat approach to dieting. And so it is very possible to eat a high carb diet and still lose weight, right? As long as you keep your fat low. So what you have to decide on though is how long do you think you'll be able to sustain this? Now, eating high carb is great, as long as you're eating clean carbs, but a lot of our really important systems in the body, such as your sex hormones and vitamin D, cholesterol, as well as some of the cellular organelles, including the membranes that our cells are encased in, all of that requires dietary fat intake. So if you're significantly reducing your fat intake, such as when a vegan diet, when they reduce the intake of animal products and therefore fat, and then replace those fats with things like oils, that can negatively affect their health and it could be very detrimental. So you have to kind of be conscious of this balance. So, of course, you can also drop your carbohydrate intake, which is what a lot of people do when they go on keto or carnivore style diets, where they will drop their carbohydrate intake and they'll increase their fat intake significantly. And that's great as well, except that reducing carbs dramatically may lead to short-term mood swings. You might experience some severe cravings, some agitation, and some just general kind of crabbiness, maybe even some lethargy. If your body's used to running on carbs, you guys know you're going to go through this whole process of switching, and your body will fight you for the first couple of weeks. Even your body will fight and it will want to get those carbs because it knows that it's easy and they do taste good. So sugar is delicious. So your body will fight you, but if you can make it through that, and your body will eventually adjust, and then you'll start burning fat, the dietary fat and the stored fat as your fuel source. And then we do have, athletes, especially bodybuilders, they will start to decrease their carb intake and their fat intake as they start to lean bulk, or I'm sorry, as they start to cut after their bulk. Um, but a lot of times, once their show is over or whatever goal that they wanted to reach, they've achieved it. They're going to go right back to eating carbohydrates, and sometimes the severe depletion of carbohydrates or the severe restriction, and the amount of self-control and willpower it took for them to resist all those carbs, all of that comes back with a vengeance. And so they end up going on binges. And a lot of times these girls who lose a bunch of weight, to prepare for some kind of show or some kind of contest or whatever, once they gain back or go back to eating carbs, they just blow up, and it's really difficult for them to maintain because they never really learn how to moderate carbs. They just go on this extreme reductionist diets. Is my strategy for losing fat while maintaining my hormonal health and um, keeping my carbohydrates cravings in check. So honestly, you guys, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've done a keto, I've done a carnivore diet, and those are great for a short term, but I always end up coming back to eating carbs because I really like gaining strength, and I don't love doing a whole bunch of cardio. And I know carnivore community is very strong, saying that you can do power generative explosive movements while you're doing carnivore. Personally, I've struggled with that. I do much better throughout my workouts if I eat some rice or if I eat some potatoes throughout the day. So I tend to maintain that. So how do I maintain it? So here's my kind of a basic calculation. So in order to figure out what my daily caloric needs would be, I take my current body weight and I multiply it by about 11. So you can multiply it by about 10 or 11 based on how heavy you are and how much weight you need to drop. Usually protein intake depends on your age, and I know a lot of charts will show you that older adults do not require as much protein, which is really not true, because by the time you get older, especially 50 plus, your body doesn't have the muscle mass that it used to have. So you actually need to increase your protein intake, especially if you're looking to lose some fat, to build some muscle, and to just maintain general well-being. Muscle is the organ of longevity, and so you really want to focus on getting adequate protein intake for your age. So usually for someone who is, under 30, I would say probably about a gram per pound of body weight. Anyone from 30 to 50 or so. So someone like me, I'm 33 years old. I do about 1.3 grams per pound of body weight. And then anyone who's 51 and above, I would say almost as much as 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. I maintain my fats at about a quarter of my daily caloric intake, regardless of which diet or which meal prep I'm on, because that's where I feel the best. It still allows me to eat a significant amount of carbs to maintain and fuel through my workouts and meet my nutritional goals, but at the same time, my fat intake is adequate enough to where my hormones don't suffer. And I can still eat things like steak and avocados and things like that, so I don't have to eat white fish and chicken breast all day long. So just to go through an example, let's pretend you're 165-pound, 40-year-old female, and you want to drop about 20 to 30 pounds. So we'll calculate your caloric intake or your caloric daily needs. So we take 165 times 11, comes out to about 1,800 calories per day. From there, we'll multiply your weight by 1.3, because you're at 40, so you need about 1.3 grams of protein per pound of body weight, which comes out to about 250 grams of protein, or about 860 calories coming from protein. Again, 1815 times a quarter, which is about 25% of the daily intake, will come from fats, which would be about 45 grams of fat, and the rest of it is going to be in carbohydrates, which is going to be about 125 grams of carbohydrates per day. Now, again, in order to eat 125 grams of carbohydrates per day, you do have to be kind of active, and these macros are really designed for someone who is going to continue to maintain some sort of activity, so because fat loss otherwise is going to stall no matter what you do. So you really want to kind of maintain and stay active throughout the day. Of course, like I said, this is a generalization, so you're going to this is a really good place to start, but you do have to do your own homework. One size does not fit all, one formula does not fit all, and every 140-pound female is different. So we need to, be diligent about this. really track your calories, really track your macros, find yourself a friend or a coach who can help you through this, and someone who can help you stick with it. So let's say you're 165-pound 40-year-old female who only wants to lose 10 pounds, for instance, right? So I'd say that these macros are probably not for you. I would say, you probably need to do something more like Tone and Tighten, where you will be trading a little bit more of that fat for the muscle definition, because I'm betting that what you really want is really more of a toned and a shaped look, so you can look good in a bikini, tighten up some areas, and not necessarily for those 10 pounds to be gone off the scale, because the number on the scale is not nearly as important as the way your body looks and feels. So if you guys have any questions, comment down below. Check out my next video on Tone and Tighten, the fat loss approach.